Um,
Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Dolores Millhouse. I'm the chair of the Parent and Community Advisory Council. And Happy New Year, everyone. This is our first meeting of the new year. We made it. We are heading into the closing of this semester, right? This semester is closing out. And so not only did we make it through the semester, but I'm excited that we are here today to kick off our January meeting. We did not meet in December because there was a conflict that we had. So we decided to support a data literacy event that had to be postponed. But it was okay because it gave us some time to recharge and get ourselves together. So at 7:01, we are calling this meeting to order. At this time, Mr. Ross, can you take roll call?
yes, Chairman. Dr. Parasadon,
I'm here.
Reverend Dr. Orlando Germain Bago,
Present.
Ms. Rebecca Brown.
Here.
Mr. Will Epps. Dr. Sheila Jackson,
Present.
Ms. Carlotta Lundy,
Present.
Chair Dolores Millhouse,
Present.
Mr. T. Carter Ross is present, Ms. Teresa C. Smith, Ms. Kyra Walker,
You're right, it's Kira. I'm present.
sorry, Ms. Robin Welch,
Present.
Ms. Latanza Wilson, and Ms. Celeste Wood. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I want to first welcome our new members to their first Parent and Community Advisory Council meeting. And as I said earlier, you are now part of the Cool Kids Club. We are excited to have you. We're definitely excited because now we have a quorum, and so we can start actually doing some business and making some things happen. And so I am going to take a brief moment and allow you all to introduce yourselves, to say what district you are representing. And so, Dr. Adon, I want to start with you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Again, I am Dr. Paris Adon. I am a native Prince Georgian. Went to no disrespect to any other high school in the county. I think all the high schools are great, but Suitland High School is the best high school in the county. That is a proven fact. If you want to look at the research, we can do that. But no, my family is through and through for Prince George's County. My wife went to High Point. My daughter went to Bowie, just graduated this year. My son is a current student at Eleanor Roosevelt. So I love the county. It's just a part of my blood. So I'm glad to be here. Also went to Concord Elementary School, Francis Scott Key Middle School, which is no longer in existence, but it's Francis Scott Key Elementary now. But happy to be here.
Wow. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome and thank you. And did you say what high school did you attend?
Suitland High School.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Not Largo. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I would never have
okay.
gone.
I mean, the Largo Lions, I mean, it's okay. You know, we have us a rivalry here. That's good to go. And so I want to next, Miss Dr. Adon, I'm coming for you. I want to next go to Miss Smith.
Everyone, although I did not graduate from high school in Prince George's County, I can say that my oldest went to Largo High School. So Largo Lion over here. Good evening, everyone. I am Teresa Smith. I am here as a member of District 6. I have 3 kids who are one that went through Prince George's County Schools since 4th grade, and then I have 2 young ones, one at Maya Angelou French Immersion and one at John H. Bain. I don't know what else to say, but I am happy to be here and ready to work.
Well,
welcome.
Welcome. And you said a lot with that Largo Lion piece. Thank you. So that's exciting. And Miss Brown?
So good evening. I'm Rebecca Brown. I currently teach in Prince George's County at Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School. I am a sort of a product. I went to University Park Elementary School and Hyattsville Middle, but then my parents moved me to Annapolis for high school. So I did not graduate, but I felt like I owe PG County my life. So I do teach at Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School. Love it to death. I represent District 2. So thank you for having me.
That is so exciting. And we have, is Miss Latanza on? I don't think she's on tonight. And so I want to just say thank you all for taking those introductions. We do have Mr. Briggs, who is one of the liaisons. And I was also just informed that we have a new liaison who has been appointed to the Parent and Community Advisory Council, Pamela Boozer Struther, who is the board member for District 3. So, okay. So this is exciting. And so I want you to know that we will, we'll have another briefing meeting. That we had one yesterday, but just know we are here and we're advisors. And the biggest thing that you just need to understand is all of your skill sets that you have transferred into the current job that you pour into your community and your children. We are now going to share that wealth of knowledge with the Board of Education as well as the superintendent to make sure that they have a good idea of what they may be missing, because sometimes when you're in the weeds, you have a blinder and you can't see it. So we're like that rear view mirror or the side view mirrors that help them with them blind spots, to make sure that they are able to see a bigger picture with the input from all of our members who are representing not only the community, and I say stakeholders. I like to say stakeholders or partners in education. That's the term that I'm using. I can't coin it because I didn't create it, but we're partners in education. And so we are all committed to the goal of pushing the students forward and making sure that they have everything that they need. And so, yeah, this is very exciting. So welcome. And we are very appreciative of you all being here. Miss Latanza Wilson, I see you there. I want to give you a moment before we move to item 1.3 to say a little bit about yourself. And this is our opening remarks and welcome.
Good afternoon. My apologies. I am just getting in from the gym, so I'm trying to somewhat there we go. Good afternoon, all. Hello, my name is Latanza Wilson. I am the new PCAC member for District 2. I thank you all so much for inviting me with open arms, and I am ready to get to work. However sweaty, I'm still ready to get to work.
And we are excited. So I just want to make sure for clarification, Ms. Brown, you're actually the PGCEA union representative, because our council includes a parent representative from every district. And then we also have 4 seats for our community members. And the community members are from the business sector, civic engagement, faith-based, as well as it was nonprofit and or union. And so I'm excited that we have someone who is representing PGCEA that is a part of the committee. So do you live in District 2?
No, I do not, but I do work in District 2. So I'm happy to be here as part of the PGCA.
Yeah, so we are excited. And so we're hoping that as a union representative, you are here representing PGCEA as well as any other body that's governed with union representation, because you're bringing those ideas to us so we can see it from the lens of what may be happening in those groups as well as PGCEA. So we're excited. And I want to do just a quick round robin so they get to see us, because we don't really meet outside of this. And so I just want to take a little bit of time of going around, and how I see it. Dr. Jackson is the first square on Hollywood Squares on my computer right now. So Dr. Jackson, if you can briefly, and I'm asking you all can do it 30 seconds or less, intro about yourself.
Elevator speech. Good evening. I'm Dr. Sheila Jackson, Director of our Department of Family and Community Partnerships. So everything family engagement, if you have questions about it, please, please not only contact me, but we hope we work together. Welcome.
And she's a superintendent designee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Miss Carletta Lundy.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited to see all these beautiful new faces. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Carletta Lundy. I am a community advocate. I am also the executive secretary for the Prince George's County NAACP. I'm also a former councilwoman, and I currently serve as an appointed governor appointee to the Prince George's County Board of Elections. And so I am so happy to have you all as a part of us. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Exciting. Thank you. And Miss Barton.
Good afternoon. My name is Mia Barton. I am the board staff member to support the PCAC. I've been here working on the board for, it would be 4 years next month that I've been here working, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you.
Thank you, Miss Barton, for keeping us in line too. Miss Welsh.
Good afternoon. It's good to see everyone. I am the Director of Government Relations, Compliance, and Procedures. And basically, I do try to keep people in line, just like Ms. Millhouse said. So,
She does. Ashley also is a superintendent designee. So we have 2 superintendent designees. So Mr. Carter Ross, thank you, Miss Welsh.
Hello, I'm Carter Ross. I'm District 3 representative for the PCAC and been involved PGCPS parent for a very long time now. My youngest is going to be graduating from the Academy of Health Sciences this May. My oldest is in college, having graduated from Northwestern, and on Saturday heads to Dublin for a semester abroad. So
Exciting.
Yep.
Thank you. And he is the recording secretary for PCAC. I'm doing really good tonight remembering stuff. Mr. Epps.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Will Epps. I'm the business representative for the PCAC. I actually live in District 5. I have 2 daughters, fourth grade and first grade at Whitehall Elementary. I represent the business community. The name of my company is Unified Services and Consulting. We are in the real estate and construction and a space as project managers, workforce development, educational services. And so, I've been a part of this team since last year and looking forward to doing good work with the new members here.
Thank you, Mr. Epps. And Dr. Orlando Bago, or Reverend Dr. Orlando Bago.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Bago, pastor of Centerpoint Baptist Church in Camp Springs, Maryland. I am representing the faith-based community and its partnerships with Prince George's County Public School System.
Excellent. And so did I get everyone? Okay. Is that
Mr. Briggs.
Mr. Briggs? Okay, because I have 2 screens now. Mr. Jonathan Briggs.
Yes.
And Miss wait. I'm sorry,
Ms.
Mr.
Walker.
Briggs. Miss Walker is next. I'm sorry, Mr. Briggs.
All right, am I next?
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry. I'm probably I'm off screen because I'm driving, but I am Kira Marshall Walker. I have 3 children. One is graduating from high school. One in kindergarten. So I'll be around for a while, but I do work in special education compliance for the state superintendent's office in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, Miss Walker. Mr. Briggs.
Great. Yeah, no, thank you. And just want to say I'm really excited to see everyone here this evening. I mean, it's been an interesting road to get here. And I think, I feel like I know you, even though I've not actually met you in person. And this is my first time, meeting you virtually too. But just really excited to have all of you join PCAC and to commit to the service 2 years, really. And so we're just really, really grateful for the work that we know you'll do and the commitment that you've made. So welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. And me, finally, the last, I'm Dolores Millhouse. I am representing District 7. I have 2 children who attend school in District 6. They are in the Spanish immersion programs, an 8th grader as well as a 3rd grader. And I was also the co-founder of My Bilingual Child, who started the advocacy work to push for language immersion expansion for the programs here in Prince George's County. And so my advocacy work with PGCPS has expanded over the past now 12 years. And so I am in here because I am so committed to our children not having any roadblocks when they leave with their diploma, that everyone knows that they were educated in the best school district in the world. Not the state, not the country, in the world. So I am committed and I'm excited to be here with all of you, and let's get moving. So I do want to also state that we do have a new liaison, as I stated. It is Pamela Boozer-Struther. So she wants to send her welcome and apologies because she did have a conflict, and the appointments I think just changed maybe yesterday because she spoke to me today about it. So I'm excited that we do have, and I think this is her 2nd term on the board. So she's been around, she's a parent here in PGCPS, so she knows what we're going through. Her child is in the 8th grade. And so yeah. So she understands as well. So we are lucky to have 2 representatives, because that was one of the things that we recommended to the board in our report, that we needed at least 2 board members who were going to liaison. So if they had other business, right, duties as assigned, that someone was going to be able to take up the slack in their space. So that what you see is at least one of the recommendations that we provided, that they took it into consideration and they brought it full circle. So we're now going to move on to item 1.3, the adoption of the January 10th, 2024 meeting agenda. At this time, can I get a motion to adopt the January 10th, 2024 meeting agenda?
So moved. Carletta Lundy, so moved.
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we have a unanimous vote. So we're going to move on to item 1.4, the approval of the meeting minutes for September 6th.
Just a quick correction, that should be for November 1st.
Yeah, November 1st, 2023. So we do need to make a adjustment to the agenda to amend the minute meetings. As it states, it's November what, Carter?
1st.
November
1st. November 1st, 2023.
Ms. Millhouse, the agenda that I have up states November 1st, 2023.
Yeah, but what I'm looking at says September 6th, 2023 on board docs.
Oh, okay.
On board docs, the minutes that were provided are for November 1st.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Okay, so can we get a motion to adopt the minute meetings for November 1st? Miss Barton? Your hands up. Your hands up.
Yes, that was an error on my part. So I apologize for that.
It's okay. I did get confused because I know what I submitted, but it's okay. So do I need to make another motion to adjust that on the agenda that's posted on board docs?
I did change it. Do you want it to go back because you're making a motion to change it?
Well, do I need to? That's the question. Do I need to make a motion? Do I need to go back to item 1.3? Because at this point, we're adopting the agenda, which is showing the minute meetings for September 6th when it should say November 1st.
Yes. So make a motion to do that, and I'll change it back to the 6th.
Okay. So I need a motion to go back to item 1.3. So we
Moved.
can, thank you, second.
Second.
Seconded.
We need one person a second.
Dr. Jackson, second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. So item 1.3, and I don't really think I need to make a motion to, we need to make an amendment to the item 1.4 so it can read November 1st and not September 6th. So I need a motion from the floor to move forward with the adjustment or the change or revision, I should say, for item 1.4 to read November 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? So we have adopted the fact that item 1.4 will now state approval of meeting minutes for November 1st, 2023. Okay. Moving on to item 1.4, approval of meeting minutes for November 1, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Was that an aye for an oppose or?
No, I was
Okay.
just slow.
It was a delay. Okay. So at this time, we have moved and second the adoption of the minute meetings for November 1st, 2023. Moving on to report of the PCAC chair. Very short report. I'm excited that we have 4 new members, and which means that we are more likely to be able to do more business. We still have 3 vacancies that we are awaiting for the application to go out. I mean, the form for, well, yeah, the application to receive notice of the communication for the application and the notice to go out, letting the public know that the vacancies are now ready to be filled. So hopefully we can get report on that when that will happen. But we are meeting with the superintendent and Quincy Boyd that is still on the books. Now that we have the newest members in place, we just need to let him know, and I'm just going to send an email tomorrow stating, hey, when is the next time that you, because they meet with us every first Friday, meaning the officers. And at this time, we're in a better position, and since we have the newer members on board, that we can now move into meeting at least once or twice with the entire committee, with the superintendent. And I will also be sending another email to the board to request the full meeting with the board, even if it can't be joint with administration, because at least we'll be able to meet, they'll get to know everyone. And I'm also hoping that those of you who are assigned to a district have already spoken to your district members, are meeting with your district members, or setting up a time to meet with them on a regular basis. We attended Legislative Day. I know Ms. Lundy was there. And of course, Robin and Dr. Jackson had to attend because they work for the school district. But Mr. Carter and I were there, Ms. Lundy were there. And it was a great opportunity for the school system to report out on some of their legislative endeavors. And thank you, Robin, for providing such a robust report to us, because it made sure that we had an understanding of what was happening. And they are looking to bring more of the community stakeholders, specifically parent leaders, as well as the PCAC members, to Annapolis to kind of push and support some of the bills, potential bills, or ideas that we would like to see in legislation that supports the work that we're doing to support the advancement of our students here at PGCPS. And so it was a great event. We are still working right now. I'm going to ask you all, those who may be interested, because we need to start moving forward. We're working on the bylaws and revising the bylaws. So now that we are not hoping that we get seats, we got seats, we have people. You know, we also have a vacancy for a vice chair. And we are hoping that we can, well, not hoping, we're going to have an election at our next meeting in February. And so, you know, you can talk to Carter or myself and Mr. Epps if you may make yourself available to anyone. He was our previous vice chair for any questions, but it is not a heavy task. But we're doing a lot of groundwork right now to lay the foundation, the administrative work, I would say, about how we are operating as an advisory committee. And it's a lot of gray area. We're not an extension of the board, right? So we're not here to do the work that our board members should be doing. We are really here to bring together the resources and ideas to kind of help be on the forefront. You will be getting an email from me as well. Like, we are working with various departments who are asking us to be a part of, you know, focus groups, part of task force. We were on the calendar committee. We've been on the technology committee, the blueprint committee. So not that you have to raise your hand and say, I'll do it, but the idea is they're asking us because they want our input on the forefront. And if you can't attend, then you may know someone in the community that may be a good fit, right? And so it's important that we are in a position that we're seeing in the forefront of talking about some of the issues and concerns versus the afterthought, right? And so it's, you are about to raise your hand. No, I'm not. So I really appreciate the opportunity that we have, but I want to make sure that we don't minimize who we are and thinking that, oh, I'm just a parent, so what do I have to say? Oh, I'm just a teacher, so what, you know? No, we're a group of intellects, right? We're resourceful, we're innovative, and we are able to see what's happening in the district from various lenses. And I think that it's important that we recognize what we have to offer and be okay with saying, yeah, my seat is already at the table. Let me just squeeze in here and sit down because I have something to say. And that really is the crust of my report. Does anybody have any questions? It's usually always short and brief. We haven't done much over the past 2 months, other than just pushing to get these vacancies filled, you know, making sure that the board follows policy 1500. But the big thing is getting us in the room with the board and administration to say, what do you need from us? What can we help you with? And we are focused right now on engagement policies, because in the beginning, we recognized what was missing from the strategic plan was, how is the district actually engaging, and not just parental engagement, but equitable engagement, like every stakeholder. How do you feel about being a part of the PGCPS community? And so our approach in looking at engagement from that lens, we started to dig into some of the practices, administrative policies, the board policies. And we are appreciative of the feedback that we have been getting, but we are also in a position to make sure that people know who we are and that we exist, because we're still like, who are you? What's PCAC? And so, Ms. Lundy, you had your hand up?
I believe Dr. Bagel does.
Dr. Bagel?
Yes, good evening. Madam Chair, can you speak to how many meetings you have had with either the new superintendent or board chair, and what have been the outcomes?
So I've had, well, not we've met 4 times with Superintendent House. So he came in August. So our first meeting was September. When did he come in?
I think it's been 5 meetings total.
5 meetings.
Although one of those may have been just with Chief of Staff Boyd.
Yeah, so we've had 5 meetings. So those first 5 meetings, well, the first 2 meetings I would say was the outcome were them really understanding who we are and what our purpose is. There seems to be a misunderstanding that people are just like, okay, well, you know, you all can come and maybe galvanize the community and move forward with this agenda. And it's like, we don't have the capacity to do that. We don't have a budget. We don't have the funding. So with the superintendent and chief of staff, the outcome of that has been we've now have standing meetings every first Friday where they are asking us an opinion and needing our input on various things, to include the crossing guards, what do we think about it, the legislative agenda. But I would say the first 3 meetings have been about, we have these vacancies, nobody's meeting with us, and we can't do any work because our hands are pretty much tied because nobody who we should be advising is sitting down to meet with us. We have yet to meet as officers with the board chair. I did meet with the board chair as Dolores Millhouse concerned parent about the interaction or lack thereof and what was happening with PCAC. And at this time, we have yet to meet with the board chair, but we did have a meeting where we asked for a joint meeting, and the board chair did not attend. The vice chair did attend. Mr. Briggs also attended. And in that meeting, the discussion was heavily around, in full transparency, board policy 1500, how it was to be adhered to make sure that the vacancies were filled. And I think I could summarize the meetings that we've had have been more so about making sure that we are not pulled into the agenda of doing Board of Education work versus being utilized as an advisory group who actually has some insight and input to things that are happening. It could really help move some of or address some of the gaps that we have. And our last meeting, I was just like, you know, we definitely need to meet with the entire PCAC. We've met enough, we've talked enough. Now we're in a position to meet with the entire PCAC so we can be in a position to hear what you need, because I can't speak from a faith-based perspective. I'm not here as the business representative, right? And so I can tell you what's happening from my purview and where we are. So I hope that answered your question in summary. We've been working on making sure that people know, meaning the board as well as administration, who we are and what we're not here for.
Yeah, it answers my question, but raises another question or concern. How are we a function of the board? And you, as the chair of this committee, have not had a meeting with the chair. I'll just leave that there and then.
I love to smile. And I will say this, in full transparency, because you can always go back and look at some of these board meetings where I have spoke and made it very clear that you can't speak to me about how interested you are in the voices of the community and the stakeholders, and you're not sitting down and having a meeting. Now, I am not here, and I need to say this and be very clear. My only desire is to make sure, it starts with my children, to make sure that there are no roadblocks when they leave PGCPS and someone looks at their diploma. You don't have to think twice about how educated they are. I have no desire to be anybody's board member, no, your council member, your delegate. I have a desire to be a proud mom when my kids are graduating. And I was like, I did it. I am done. Don't look for me. I am out of here. And so you can't talk about needing to hear the voices of the community and not taking the time to sit down with me, to sit down with us, right? And so we have been asking for meetings since we came into place. And so at this point, I need you all to know that I will be sending another email now that we have a majority of our positions, because we had 7 vacancies and now we still have 3 vacancies. And so I'm going to keep my smile because I'm tired and I don't feel like fighting and pushing, but I'm not going to stop. But we're going to have a meeting, whether it's with the current chair or not. And so I can say that Superintendent House and Chief Boyd, they are ready. They are just like, okay, when do you all want to meet? Well, you tell us when your schedule avails. So we will get that going and get that moving as of tomorrow, because we had already sent, because we can do it hybrid. We started that discussion to do it hybrid or virtual or all in person. So, you know, everybody kind of chose. And so a hybrid, because some people may not be able to meet in person, but we don't want a person to miss out, right? But we also want to be respectful that people who may work in the schoolhouse, we can't really just say we're going to do it from between working hours, right? But if you the superintendent, can you get them a pass for an hour so they can attend the meeting if you have them, you know, they've been elected, because he's part of that selection process. So yeah, and I want to apologize because I have been doing a lot of the fighting so it wouldn't have any backlash on us as a group, right? To overshadow the work that we're doing. And so I had no problem with standing and telling them on record that it is not okay how you all are functioning and what you're doing and treating what you want to call one of your committees, right? That you won't even engage with us. And as your advisor, you're not even meeting with us, because that's what you do. You meet. If you bring us on as advisors, you want to meet with us. You want to talk to us. You want to get our input. And so Superintendent House did ask that we submit a bio for every member. And I said, okay, well, let's get the members in here first. And then we will identify, you know, the format in whatever format he wants it. And we have no problem with that, because we want you to see the skill sets that we are bringing to the table to really be able to help support where there may be gaps and blind spots. So. Anything else for that? Dr. Bago? Call me, Dr. Bago. Can you call me?
Yeah, yeah, you know, I'm trying not to put my community organizer hat on.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
put it on.
because-
I need you to put it
No,
on.
I think it's a sad commentary that we can't get meetings with the chair.
Yeah.
And then I just don't understand that. You know, I've been here since the beginning, and I think that we should have had a little bit more support in this endeavor coming from the board. And I want to make sure that we as a committee are not overstepping our bounds in these discussions with the superintendent if we don't have the support of the board behind us.
So the chair is in her role as chair, like my role, right? The vice chair came to the meeting, and the law states, as well as board policy 1500, is that we advise the board and administration. So whether the board as a whole meets with us, that doesn't stop administration, because, you know, that their roles are really very separate in what they're supposed to do, right? So I am very, very intentional about making sure that even when we are meeting, and Carter is in the meetings as well. So when we're meeting, that we're making sure that we're not doing anything that one looks like we are operating as an extension of the board, because we're not, right? As well as putting or having any discussion, it's always administration, what is it that you need from us? Board, we need to talk to you. And Mr. Briggs is on here. So I know that he was also instrumental in sending out emails to Superintendent House, and Quincy Boyd, Chief Boyd, is the superintendent liaison. So she was actually the one who made sure that we end up getting the joint meeting. And the vice chair was there. She showed up. You know, and so, you know, I don't know how many, I'm not going to keep begging somebody to meet. And that's why we ended up sitting down and going over the strategic plan, right? Because if you're not meeting with us and saying to us, what is it that you need? We are here in the community. We know what needs to happen. I don't need them to tell me what they need from us. So that's why we came together, and then we submitted the report, right? Here's some recommendations. And so I am excited, you know, with the new liaisons that are, you know, are here and coming in, that in speaking to Miss Boozer Struthers, I was like, hey, I just want to state, one of the things that we want to know is, based on the recommendation report that we submitted, what'd you all think? You had me to present, and I presented. So now what's the feedback from the board? So they're doing things, but I know for me, I work in the private sector, right? And so how we operate when we're dealing with advisors is very different. This is not norm, right? So I'm gonna keep pushing the agenda, and you know, if I'm stepping over boundaries, I'm reading the policies and I know them like the back of my hand at this point. So
Final comment. I think it speaks volumes that the new superintendent has come in and established this monthly meeting. If necessary, what are the steps that we need to take in order to present as a committee to the full board on a monthly basis at one of their meetings?
All we would have to do is agree, right, what we are presenting, submit that to the liaison, and then the liaison presents that to the board as a request. But we also have to make sure that we have something that we present, right? And so and what time is it? I don't want to cut this short at all. What I want to say is that we are in a time right now that we have to start working on our next report, because we didn't put that in the bylaws how often we was going to report, but we did speak and say, okay, we'll have at least a report a year, right? But I do think it is a good idea, just like Ms. Lundy is presenting tonight from the civic engagement piece, right? And as a whole, there may not be something that as a whole that we need to discuss, but we can back and support. If you, from the faith-based perspective, says, hey, this is a recommendation and this is how we can better engage the faith-based community. We want to be able to present that to the board, right? During your February meeting, right? Mr. Briggs, if you're still on, if you can chime in as the liaison and to make sure that I am in the clear, what I'm communicating your role is that when we sent the report in the last time, we sent it through the board liaison, who then sent it into the board.
Yes, that's correct. I think the way that would work is that you would share the information with liaison. They'll be the direct contact to the board. And so that would also be for requesting meetings or anything else. You'd work with that, and we can coordinate and making sure that the board staff and others are able to get that meeting on the calendar. So I don't think it should be a heavy lift. And I look forward to, as well as Ms. Boozer Struther, to that email. So I think we can get that moving.
Mm-hmm. And so this I think that's a great idea. And, what I would like to do is I'll draft up the letter and it will, and we can actually take a vote on this right now. I will draft a letter and send it to the committee. And you all will give me feedback on the request to have a meeting with the board as a whole, or at least the board officer leadership, to include the chair and the vice chair, not an appointee from the chair, but the chair, to talk about what it looks like and to define how we will engage the rest of the school year, right? To discuss some of the priorities that we have, right? Or that they have that they want to share with us. And to also follow board policy 1500, because it states in there, based on the policy, that they should be meeting with us, on as defined at a time that works best for them. That doesn't mean not to meet at all. Any other questions? Comments?
Madam Chair, Teresa Smith, I was just wondering, do we know why the meeting has not occurred? Is it just a schedule conflict, or is there some other reason that is preventing the meeting to occur?
Ms. Smith, I suspect that question's to me. There are new rules that the chair of PCAC has put in place, so the liaison is speaking, I believe, if you're recognizing me now. So I want to make sure I'm being recognized.
So let me also be clear on that, Mr. Briggs. What I did is I took off the liaison's ability to report out during our meetings, because this is the Parent and Community Advisory Committee. And so if you had a report, you would just send it in to us and I would report out, during my chair report. But at this time, we're in open discussion. So please, yes, Ms. Smith, that is not I can't respond to that, because I've sent the emails and I've sent the requests. And so, Mr. Briggs, as the liaison for the board, please.
Great, happy to respond. So, no, I don't think it's an issue with the chair engaging with PCAC, and I know that every board member cares about students and kids. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. A number of our board members are parents. So, as I said before, once you send that email to me, we can get that meeting on the books, and I know that we can make that happen, and that everyone's committed to this work. So, I think that's probably what will happen moving forward. Not probably, what will happen moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. Ms. Smith, did that answer your question?
It helped answer the question. I don't know if it directly answered it, but I guess the main goal is to move forward. So it sounds like we will get some traction here. So thank you.
Thank you. You're so welcome. Ms. Lundy, you were in rotation. You had a question.
Oh, no, Chairman House, I didn't have a question.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I had one question really quickly, if that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
As a new member, I was a principal and teacher, so I get the red tape, so to speak, if that's the language I want to use. But given that, I just don't see why this is difficult. It doesn't have to be difficult, and I just kind of want to ensure Mr. Briggs that it's not a difficult thing to do, because I often say that in my life, like, it doesn't have to be this difficult. So if this is not a difficult thing to do, I just kind of want some reassurance that if a meeting can happen, it can happen relatively.
Oh, it's going to happen. Let me just state this. And if it doesn't, it's okay, because we're still going to do what we need to do, right?
Yeah,
but we are going.
What can we do to help get that?
Well, I mean, we can go to the board and speak just as I did and put it on public record. Okay. Because at this point, I've asked, I've emailed. If you go back to a couple of meetings, I've also spoken on record and put it on public record, And so, but I will say this, we are here to advise. You know, you are working with your board member who represents, what district is it again? What district? 5? District 5, right? And so working with your board member will get just as much done as sitting down with the chair, who is, I see myself just a figurehead to kind of push things through and trying to, you know, kind of get things organized. But at the end of the day, if I'm not here, PCAC still should be doing the work. And no matter whether the chair wants to meet with us or not, we are still going to advise and make sure that PGCPS is doing what they need to do. And I will say this, that it is, we are here because there's a law in place. And it is Maryland Code, what is it, 4112? Annotated Code 4112? Is it 4112? I think it's 4112. It's a law. That's why we're here, right? And then the policy was written based on that law. And so we're gonna get the meeting. And this is exciting to me because now we have all of our voices together to make sure that they understand that we want to meet, because we're here to advise. Mr. Briggs, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I mean, I hear you very clearly, Dr. I want to make sure I'm getting it right, Dr. Adon or Dr. Aiden?
Adon, that's right.
That there aren't conflicts here, and I think I want to be clear in saying I'm not being cryptic in any way, and trying not to address. I think for the sake of time, as you can imagine, right, there's always different perspectives and different sides to things, and so I think for the sake of time and for clarity, I would say that it is something that I know can happen, and as long as that information comes to the liaisons who will make that happen with the board, then we will ensure that happens, and that there aren't any barriers that exist there around having a meeting with the board chair.
Yeah, and that's exciting, because that's what all of them, the requests have gone through the liaisons. And so, as I said, the superintendent is meeting with us when we ask for the joint meeting. You know, so it's okay. We're going to make it happen. But I don't want that to, you know, deter us at all from what we're doing, because we're working, we're making things happen, we're getting things done. So any other questions, comments? Okay, so we're going to move on to, and thank you. This was very engaging. Thank you. This was very helpful. I appreciate it. We're going to move on to item 1.6, and not that I want to cut you all short, but we're gonna keep it brief, but keep it factual. Dr. Jackson, you go first. Okay, well, maybe Dr. Jackson, you need a moment. Ms. Welsh?
No, I just could not find my unmute button.
Okay.
I do apologize, everyone. That was such an engaging conversation, and I think I was still engrossed. Thank you all so much for that. I do want to quickly share my screen, and what it's going to be on the screen will come to all of you. I think Ms. Barton will do her best to get it in your file or in your folder so you can have it. But just some information from our Department of Family, and we are now Family and Community Partnerships. Of course, my logo still says Family School Partnerships, but I wanted everyone to know we presented to PCAC earlier in the school year, and these are just a summary of some of the things that we're responsible for in our department, and the emails of the individuals in my department who are in charge of these different events are available to you to reach out to at any time. Parent leadership supports what we do is make sure that every school has some type of parent leadership organization, whether it's PTA, PTO, some call it parent focus groups, but that is a main focus that we have as a department to support them. Mrs. Falby helps us run what we call parent cafes. Those are intimate conversations that schools have decided that they want to have, where they call in groups of parents who are interested, to have them sit down and work through some of the concerns that they have, whether it's about their individual children, about parenting skills, but they're very deep and moving conversations. We have an activity called Dadversities, where we're working very hard to engage more male figures in the educational process. Mr. Epps has attended and helped us with this work, and we welcome all of our PCAC members. That anything on this list that you're interested in, help us out. We need you as partners. Business partnerships falls under my department. Volunteer recruitment and training falls under my department as well. And then the big things that we have, the Family Institute. I'm responsible for helping parents who may come in violation of the Code of Conduct for Families, Volunteers, and Visitors. I actually meet with parents who may have received one of those unfortunate, we call them ban letters because of different behaviors. But it's an exciting process. And I just wanted to share that with you all. And again, you'll receive this overview. Also, we have many Family Institute sessions that are always going on. We have about 2, sometimes 3 a month. As you can see, we have some coming up. The one I really want to shout out is one that you're going to hear tonight on January 25th. But Ms. Lundy is going to be sharing her information tonight. So I need to hurry up so we can allow her to have time to speak. But any of our sessions that you'd like to participate in, you can scan this QR code to register, or you have the link that you can register. And we look for families and parents and community partners who would like to present in these sessions. Most of the sessions are implemented or led by PGCPS staff, whether it's executive staff, department chairs, but we have educators, we have teachers who have presented, and we've had parents to present as well, and community members. So again, that's a quick overview. We just want to encourage everyone to please stay connected to the school system calendar, follow it, and see what's going on. Look at the activities and opportunities for our PCAC to be engaged in. On Monday night, we had what we call a quarterly conversation. Those are individuals who are in leadership positions, whether it's in schools or in district, in the community. And this week, the presentations were by our chief financial officer, as well as our chief of operations and buildings. So they talked about the budget that's coming up and where we are in the budget process. And they also talked about our building plan, what we're doing in Prince George's County Public Schools to refurbish or build all new buildings. We have a robust plan and our system that's being implemented. And then the last thing, again, is we are in the budget season. So the superintendent has released his proposed budget to the Board of Education. He's reviewed it. There's a recording of that presentation on the Board of Education website. But if you would please stay up to date on it, because I know we're going to be reaching out to PCAC and to members of all of our parent family communities to help marshal through what we need for our students going forward. And so whether it's talking about what we need to fund the blueprint, or looking at basic operational funds that are needed. So I will stop right there, but I thank you for the opportunity.
Dr. Jackson, thank you very much. And as always, making sure that we are informed so we can stay actively engaged. Ms. Welsh, well, are there any questions for Dr. Jackson? Ms. Welsh, you have the floor.
Okay, and I'll speak quickly. So the first thing I wanted to bring back to the group was our conversation about the Administrative Procedure 6153 that addresses student trips. So if you recall, I don't know if it was our last session or the one before, I had asked for any kind of input related to our ratio of chaperones to students when we go on our field trips, because we did have a parent who was concerned about the cost of field trips, because the Administrative Procedure actually says that in addition to the number of chaperones we need to have, then we need to have the same number of staff going along as chaperones. So we did a lot of research, and I do want to thank T. Carter Ross, because he did actually call around and get information from other school systems, both in Maryland and Virginia. in terms of the number of like the ratio for chaperones. And based on that data, we really sort of fell in the middle. We were not out of line in terms of the number of chaperones we were requiring. And then in addition to that, our risk management office reached out to MABE, which Maryland Association of Boards of Ed, who also insures school systems, and they provided also more information about other school systems within the state of Maryland. And again, we sort of were right there in the middle. And we also brought in principals and spoke with them and discussed how it's working for student field trips and what's the impact of the chaperones, the number of chaperones we require. So after all that information, we put it together. What we did say was that we removed the requirement that 1/2 of the chaperones on a field trip have to be staff members. So if let's say that based on the number of students we have, we need to have 10 chaperones, volunteers. That means then 10 staff have to go along. And of course, because they work for the school system, that means that the cost of the field trip, the cost of transportation for them, if it's an overnight trip, the cost of them staying overnight is added on to the cost of the field trip, which is then actually passed along to the parents. And then another bad thing about that also is that because we have a shortage of teachers, we have used a lot of subs, but the last thing schools need are to pull a bunch of teachers out of their buildings to be able to chaperone on a field trip, because they need the teachers in the buildings also to be doing the jobs they do and the supervision they need there. So what we decided to do, after looking at all these other administrative procedures across the state and also like in Virginia, that we required that there must be at least one staff person per bus. So you'd have your ratio of chaperones to students, but there would be just one. So if you take 5 buses, you have to have 5 chaperones. And then we increased the number of the ratio for middle school and for high school so that it would be 1 chaperone for 12 students versus 1 chaperone for 10 students. And then for high school, it was 1 chaperone for 17 students versus I think it was 1 for 15. So it's not a big jump, but it is, and it still keeps us, that jump does keep us in the middle so that we're not on the far end of looking like we are not providing adequate supervision, because risk management shared with us that what you don't want is to be the school system that has a ratio of the highest number of students per chaperone. It's not smart from a reasonableness standard in terms of supervision for students. So that we did do a slight increase of the number of students per chaperone, but we didn't do it significant. But I think the biggest thing is taking out all those staff members so that that cost does not increase for the field trip so significantly that parents are having a hard time actually covering the cost of the field trip. Now, if you have a student, let's say when you're talking about students with special needs, and they might need special accommodations or whatever, then that does change it. Like there might be a student who actually does need to have a one-on-one assistant with them or something like that. So of course we would take into account any of the needs of specific students, or students also who might have nursing needs that need to be taken care of when they go on a field trip. But I wanted to thank T. Carter Ross and just having the opportunity to bring it to the PCAC because we did value the information that was provided to us, and we used it in our decision making, and so it was very helpful for you to share that. Now we're waiting for the Division of School Support and Leadership. It is that administrative procedure falls under them, so we're waiting for them to make any other revisions so we can get the administrative procedure, the revised one, published and posted, which hopefully will be shortly. But anyway, thank you all for your assistance with that. Then the other thing I wanted to share was that we are moving forward with the PCAC policy 1500, and I think we have a meeting next week, and I'm praying, and I think Board Member Briggs is praying that we end up finalizing that procedure so that we're all on the same page. We did take to heart the issue, of course, of making sure that it's always a parent who is representing a district. We also took to heart the fact that the turnaround, if there is a vacancy, there needs to be a time limit so that we're not, months aren't going by before applications are out there and we get someone to replace the people within a vacancy. Also, the issue of the superintendent doing the recommendation for the person, we kept that because that's been in policy since back to 2013. However, what we did recommend is that if you have a lot of applicants for a district, let's say you have 10 applicants for a district, the superintendent can review all those applications and make a recommendation, not just for one person, but for anyone that he thinks would be qualified to be on PCAC. And then that still allows the board member to choose among that list of people. So it does provide that, the board to have the ability to choose, but at the same time has the input from the superintendent. We also, based on Ms. Millhouse's recommendation, we did put in also about beginning earlier. We, from your last comments you provided us, we moved it up by a month. So I think it starts in March and closes off by May or something. It's just so that it's ready to go for the beginning of the next year. I think, and I did make another, this hasn't been shared yet with the committee, but it was recommended in the last committee meeting, was about the fact that the board office, working together with the superintendent's liaison, would get the application process, get the applications out and posted and everything. So, because I know this last go around, there was a lag in time, I think, in getting those applications even available for people to apply. So I think we've addressed everything, but I do want to say that if the committee does approve it next week to move forward, then it's going to go to the board for the board to make a vote to have it go up for public comment. So that means that it'll be out there for 2 weeks. So I would say by the end of January, it should be up there for public comment. So I really encourage everyone then to look at it one last time, because if there's any other things that you think should be changed in the policy, then, and they do take to heart what they receive from you. So just, that's your opportunity to put in any last minute comments that you think that, that we think revisions that you think we need to put into the policy. So, so again, thank the committee, PCAC, for assisting and providing feedback, because that was very helpful as we move forward with this policy. And then the last thing I wanted to share was that the General Assembly opened today. This is the official opening of the General Assembly. So, and there's been lots of bills coming in right now that are out there on the floor. We right now, our job is mainly to provide feedback to the Legislative Services Department, that because they're doing writes on writing up these bills, but they need fiscal information. What's the fiscal impact and operational impact for the school system? So we're in the process right now of making sure each of our divisions are providing the pertinent information they need, so that they'll have that information included in the fiscal note for each of the bills. So that's about it in a nutshell.
Ms. Welsh, thank you. Ms. Wilson, I see your hand is up.
Yes. Good evening again. A piece of information in reference to something that Ms. Welsh said that reminded me of one of the last meetings that I saw that you all had. There was a question about if parents now had access to be able to apply for, the vacant positions through the site. And I think at that time it was stated that, that situation should have been resolved. But I'll say from my experience, I had to go through my son's PGCPS account to be able to access that application. So at that time, I think this was back in October-ish, late September, early October-ish, that issue had not been resolved. So I just wanted to provide that piece of information based off of what Ms. Welsh said. It reminded me of that. I did go through a number of prior taped meetings so that I would be prepared when we came up. And I wanted to note that for you all.
Thank you for the information.
Thank you. That's very, very helpful. And so if Mr. Briggs, you can take note of that and work with I guess, the board office and Dr. Zuckerman to make sure that when the application is posted for the next round of vacancies, that individuals can access it appropriately. And so what I also want to just share, Ms. Welsh, thank you. The next Policy and Governance Committee meeting is on January 16th, 2024. You can go on the board's website to sign up to speak. And I would encourage you, I don't see the Parent and Community Advisory Council draft policy. I don't see it up here on the agenda.
It should be. It will be. I know this. He just posted it, so she might not have put up the actual policies yet, but I will make sure she gets put up there because it's ready to go.
Okay, and so I would encourage you all to review, and if you do have any feedback or comment, you know, this is the time before it moves forward to the board. You will also have time to provide comment during public comment, but I would encourage you to sign up to attend the meeting to speak. But there are also several other items that they have for discussion, such as intellectual property rights, disability issues regarding the advisory board, bullying, harassment, student, board member, and one in particular is bus conduct. So if you've had any issues or concern with, got any feedback that your child may have been misbehaving or someone else was misbehaving, you might want to make sure you are aware of this policy and can provide some feedback. But thank you, Ms. Welsh. And as always, it's always a wealth of information that you and Dr. Jackson share. And there's always something that we get to learn. It gives me an aha that I didn't know about. And I'm glad that I was able to be a part of the audience to listen to it. So now we're going to move on. If there's no questions for Ms. Welsh or Dr. Jackson, we'll move on to items 2, discussion action items, and we're going to move right into 2.1. Ms. Lundy, are you ready? Okay, so we're going to move into why parent and the civic engagement matters and how to get involved. It is a presentation that Ms. Lundy is going to provide for us as well as our viewers, and she has also volunteered to do it on a larger scale or a larger stage for Dr. Jackson that will be broadcast to the entire PGCPS, because Dr. Jackson has a lot more reach than we do right now, but we are thankful to have our civic engagement community member, Ms. Carletta Lundy.
Thank you so much, Chair Millhouse. And thank you to Ms. Mia Barton, who's going to help me. I love it. Okay, fabulous. Let me do my screen this way. Let me move this up here. Okay, so again, thank you. So I just loved both of these presentations. I love Dr. Jackson. I saw a slide that you said, I'm empowered. This is what all this presentation is all about, empowering our parents. And then I want to also thank the Policy and Governance Committee. I thank you, Ms. Welch, for letting us know about the work that's being done and it's going to be completed soon on Policy 1500. So let's get right to it. So why parent and civic engagement matter. So I'm going to go over this really, quickly, because I know time is of the essence. So this is kind of like what we're going to be talking about tonight. So next slide. Okay, fabulous. So why parent engagement in school matters and how to get involved. So you might be asking, what is parent engagement? And so I found this very appropriate definition for what is parent engagement. So parent engagement in schools is defined as parents and school staff working together to support and improve the learning, development, and health of children and adolescents. And so as I go through these slide presentations, I would like to have my colleagues, to send me an email with your feedback before we make this a final document. So I really would appreciate that. So this is going to be our working definition, and I know Dr. Jackson is watching closely. Okay, next slide. And this is going to just help our parents to make sure that they have a voice and know how to use their voice as they go before their Board of Education or if they go to testify in Annapolis. So you might be asking, what is civic engagement and how does that intersect with parent engagement? So civic engagement involves working to make a difference in the civic life of one's community and developing the combination of knowledge, skills, values, and motivation to make that difference. So you use your voice to make a difference. So you can see how parent and civic engagement interlock and work hand in hand. Next slide, please. I'm so excited. It was a labor of love to put all of this together. Okay. So I want you to consider this. Speaking up. If your goal is to advocate on behalf of or against implementing proposed policy and statutory changes, you need to make sure that you research the issue thoroughly. And so Ms. Millhouse talked about one of the policies that's coming up on bus conduct, and that's locally with our school board. Now, when we talk about testifying before your representatives in Annapolis, I know one of the policies one of the bills that's coming before us is protecting our schools, the PG metal detectors. So I'm sure our parents have something to say about that. And I know I watched Mr. House's community events, and a lot of our parents did talk about these things. So anyway, moving on. So for example, if you're clarifying these points will help you to keep your testimony focused on the topic that you came to give your testimony. So all of this is a guide for our parents. And you see the two bullets here. For example, are you advocating in favor of a particular piece of legislation or against it? And if so, you need to state why. And do you have suggestions on how to implement a policy that is in process of being enacted? Next slide, please. So to begin with, you want to make sure that you are aware of the rules and the prescribed format of the committee, the panel, officials you will be offering your testimony. And most committees or agencies will allow you to submit a written testimony for the record, or you can do an oral testimony, be in person, in most instances in advance of the hearing. In addition, most of the time, there will be a time limit between 2 or 3 minutes for you to actually give your oral testimony, your in-person testimony. You can find this information by going to the designated website or contacting the public official who is chairing the committee or sponsoring that particular bill or piece of policy or legislation. Next slide. So you can see how this can be very helpful to our parents who may not be as engaged in testifying. And for the parents who are really engaged, it could just only enhance what they're doing. So how do you testify? For your introduction, you want to make sure you state your name, the capacity in which you are testifying. If you are a parent, a teacher, a PTA person, a parent leadership, parent advisory group, a chair, etc. District and neighborhood of a resident, and the reason for your testimony. And then I want to admonish you to keep in mind, begin to share your prepared testimony. And make sure to articulate your position, provide recommendations for consideration, and share the reasoning behind your position, and provide the relevance. Let me move that up so I can see the rest of my, the relevance. I can't see my other comments at the bottom. That little line is in the way of your position. But I also want to add, is if I were in person talking or doing something virtual with the parent community, I would also say, if you have some personal testimony that would more so enhance your position, that is always a good thing. All right, next slide, please. Thank you so much, Mia. So when schools, families, and community groups work together to support learning, children tend to do better in school. They tend to stay in school longer and like school more. And that's very important. Next slide, please. So this is really important right here. So what I tried to do is put some links to resources here. So we will have this for our parents. So there are several opportunities in which you can make sure that your parent voice is heard on the issues that you care about. So these are a few in the realm of education. Of course, we have our Prince George's County Board of Education. You know, you go through the board docs, you are aware of that. Also, we have the Prince George's County, Maryland Legislature Department aspect for education and workforce development. We also have a link here to the Prince George's County House delegation. We also have the link here for what you would do if you want to testify in Annapolis. So that's also here as well. So these are some important links if you want to testify on the local level. the county level, state level, federal level. These resources can help you and help you navigate the system to find out what's pending, and you can also track certain legislations as well. Thank you. Next slide, please. So it is always a good idea to allow lawmakers to hear your passion. And that's what I was talking about earlier, to hear your passion, voice, and unique viewpoint on how their decisions will affect you, your family, or community. That's very important. Next slide, please. Any questions? Thank you so much for your attention. Oh,
Ms.
now,
Lundy,
I'm sorry, Ms. Millhouse, right here. Now, this policy is being worked on, as Ms. Welch said, but we would just want to make sure that this is here so we can understand what informs us and what establishes the Parent and Community Advisory Council. Thank you. Ms. Millhouse, yes.
So I thank you so much for your presentation. And it is very important. And I'm glad that you agreed to do this and volunteered really to do this. And so my question that I have is, it's easy to talk about this is what you need to do, right? To get prepared for your speech. But when you're up there and you have 3 minutes and then that clock starts going, you know, what are some of the things that you would really suggest, you know, as you have been really in this arena of civic engagement for years? What are some of the best practices other than what you've shown that you may have your speech written, you may be ready, and then you're realizing, okay, maybe I may have should have practiced because, you know, this is actually going over, right?
Gotcha.
So what are some of the things that you would suggest when you're getting up there so you can stay on target, because you got to get in and get out?
Yes, and having testified myself in numerous arenas, you definitely want to, first of all, do your homework or whatever topic or item or issue you're talking about. And you do want to practice and time yourself. That's why part of the presentation admonished us to understand the rules of engagement as it relates to who you're going to testify before. You need to practice, practice, and practice, and edit, edit, edit. You know, I'm a fan of Project Runway. They always talk about editing in their clothes. But the same way when it comes to doing stuff like this, you need to practice and edit, because you want to be on that time schedule, because some people are less lenient than others. They may give you a little extra time, but some people are matter of fact. And then also I have been, and you will find this in the middle of giving my testimony, and I find that my time is running out or I'm getting passionate and going off topic. That keeps you on topic. You may find yourself editing in the midst of your own testimony. I've done that too. And also be familiar and look at people's faces also. See who's engaged. And that will help you. And then you also need to have relationship. If you don't have relationship, know something about the members who you're going to testify before. That will help you tremendously in how to write your testimony as well. So those are some of the things that has helped me when I've had to go testify. Yeah. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome. And I do have one more question. And as when you're talking about the art of engagement and the you know, sometimes when, and I'll use an example, you know, when you're talking about your children, it's personal, right? It's very personal. And sometimes after you've tried every avenue to be heard, you know, then you're just like, I'm coming here, you know, or let's say it is when you're advocating with the county council, right? And it's not an education related topic. It may be the property taxes or rent stabilization, whatever it is, it's always going to be something that you're passionate about if you're getting up there. So what are some of the tips that you would give to really kind of, you know, stay calm enough to give your point without being so agitated or aggravated that they're not hearing you when you speak?
Wow,
right?
that's good. That's good. I think the practicing helps. Sometimes you have to let them see your passion. Let's just be honest. Because I recently testified before the county council on the mental health issue. And that's personal to me because I have family members who suffer from that. And so sometimes you got to let them see your passion. You got to let them feel it. You really do, without being disrespectful, because you don't want to cross that line, because you want to be heard, but you want to be intentional about what you are trying to convey and how that affects, for the parents, your child. So yeah, sometimes you got to let them see your passion, let them hear your passion. That's just it. I hope that was okay.
No, that was excellent. That was excellent. Does anyone else? I mean, I can't see all the hands. So, do we have any other questions? And so, Miss Lundy, thank you, thank you. And I'm excited about the 25th. You'll have more time because that whole time will be you. It will be you engaging and you helping people start maybe writing some of their speeches.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Right. So, but we appreciate it, and this is to me what PCAC is about. It's about showing, how we could help parents, help community members build capacity, right, to go out and be more comfortable in doing the work of advocacy. So I appreciate you taking the time. And we're going to move into 2.2. We had talked briefly before about community information sessions and what that would really look like in supporting, the work that we do as advisors. But I want to kind of talk about this from the perspective of having you all to begin to think about your roles, what the district that you're representing, what are your board members, the community meet and greets that they're doing, how do you support them to work as it relates to be better engaged? The faith-based communities, there may be organizations that meet on a regular. How do we look to connect PGCPS with some of those activities to have a more broader perspective of what's happening by us being a conduit of making that connection for PGCPS as a whole? And so I just wanted to open it back up because we just had a very brief conversation, and it started about us being in a position to go out and be a part of the community information sessions, but it goes back to that. That's not our role, right? As advisors. And we really, I don't have the capacity to go out on a monthly basis. But so it really is from a perspective of what are we doing based on how we are showing up as individuals on PCAC to then come to collectively bring information. And I want to state it like this. Dr. Jackson, under her leadership, you have partnerships, right? And so we have Mr. Epps, who is our business representative, right? You have civic engagement, which is the community, civic engagement, and Dr. Bago, the faith-based. So when we're thinking about those partnerships, and Dr. Bago, you and I had a conversation about this as it relates to transportation, right? You have a lot of churches who no longer are utilizing their own vans or buses as they did, because a lot of their members are now online, right? So the transportation piece, so now you got these buses that they're either having to sell back, or vans, or they're just sitting there, right? So you already have qualified drivers that are there. So when we're looking at how do we partner and build these relationships and identify resources that we have in the community, how do we do that, right? And so those community information sessions, when we're talking about meeting, if we want to present to the board, maybe next month, and this is just an example, when we're talking about the focus is going to be faith-based, you're bringing to that meeting, some other faith-based, leaders that are saying that, hey, this is who we are, and this is how we are willing and wanting to partner with the board. And I don't think that should be something that we're waiting to have to go to a public board meeting for. We're sending it through our liaisons. We're saying, hey, we need to sit down meeting. We need to talk. And this is the focus that we want to kind of, I guess create a synergy around, right? Because we see how this may be able to address a gap that we have here. And so I'm going to stop on that and just add this one little piece as well, because as I was thinking about you, Dr. Jackson, and some individuals that we spoke with at the legislative meeting, the business community is not being engaged as much as they could be, right? And so when we think about talking about partnerships, we don't need a whole bunch of backpacks. We don't need a whole bunch of pencils and crayons. So can we better define what that looks like, and how do we go about doing SWOTs, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats assessments for every school, right? And then the school district as a whole. So when we're talking to these individuals about why we would like them to partner with us, we are giving them a good understanding of where we see that they can help us build and close some of those gaps, right? Those opportunities versus, hey, can you come read to the kids? That'll be great, right? That's amazing, right? And maybe that's the big need, but what are some of the other opportunities that we also are looking at a win-win relationship with those partners? And so I'm gonna put a pin in it on that. So I know we started off at one point in community information sessions, but those information sessions may really be where we are and how we're showing up individually, but kind of relates to, hey, if we're meeting with the superintendent, for February, then, hey, can we bring this up as a topic that we want to push forward for the meeting is only 45 minutes. So it's not like, we're meeting for hours, but that meeting that we have monthly with the superintendent is a 45-minute meeting. Mm-hmm. So based on the topic, we may need a little bit more time. Mm-hmm. But and that's where I'm saying that we don't have to wait for someone to say, this is what we need you to advise us on, because we see what's happening. We know what's happening, and we are in the community, and we're getting feedback from our community members. So I'm gonna put a pin in that and open up the floor for discussion. Thoughts?
If I could share with you, one of the things that is important before we approach schools every year and ask them to do needs analysis, so that when people reach out to the district that want to partner, we can direct them directly to whatever school has whatever need. However, I like what you're saying, because I don't think it's broadcast enough that we can give schools that kind of support. And one of the things I do every summer when I'm teaching my classes for MSDE about family community engagement is teach schools how to do what we call the SWOT analysis. How do you even know what you need? How do you know? And meanwhile, our business office is compiling lists of people who write every day, we want to partner, we want to partner. Those needs analysis help us see where we can connect people. But I like your analysis, because you're saying that we don't do enough. And I think our business partners said to us at that legislative day, how do we even know how to get engaged? Mm-hmm. So I think that is something that we can definitely talk about in that meeting with the superintendent. How can we strengthen our process so that it's not digging into the website until you find it? It's really something in the forefront.
Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure, for clarity, I'm not saying that we're going out and doing anything extra. We're already out, right? We're already out in the community. We're already engaging with people, and so based on that level of engagement, when we are meeting with our board members, when we're, hopefully beginning to have more meetings with the board as a collective, right? Because we should be meeting with our individuals as well as the superintendent and his team, because his idea was to, he didn't say the time frame or how often, but to have meetings with us as a collective with his chiefs. Yes. So it would be one, big meeting where we're all really just talking, hello, who we are, but doing some brainstorming to identify what's going to be the focus for that year, right? Where do they need us to kind of focus on in advising? And as it changes, you know, we come back together, but we kind of know what they need from us from a strategic perspective versus us trying to figure it out. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
It just seems sometimes that we're in the Abbott and Costello performance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We can do SWOT analysis, needs assessments, but what do we actually do with the data? Because we can try to implement programs, but then there's a lack of funding. And when you look at community-based partnerships, as you mentioned earlier, we had a discussion regarding faith institutions. Buildings are now being underutilized. COVID. They can provide before and after care, particularly when contracts were lost, you know, for the school system, and provide some means of before and after care and transportation for students at a community-based level. Post-COVID, we are in the greatest mental health crisis that this nation has ever experienced. And we have schools in our county that have a ratio of 200 to 1 as it relates to full-time counselors in the school system. Yet on a statewide level, there is the psychiatric, what is it, the PRP, psychiatric rehabilitation program, that is a state-funded program that can provide services not only to students, but also to the family. And yet, for some reason, there's a lack of partnership that come down. So it just seems like somehow we need to begin to progress. I mean, we are a multi-billion-dollar school district, and yet just some of these fundamentals seem to be lacking.
And I want to make sure that I also clarify, I'm not saying we're not doing a SWAT, meaning the PCAC. That's not us. What you just stated to me is a recommendation. And so we would write that up like we did with the last report, and we would put that in the report, but that also may be something versus us waiting to we submit, right? That we're submitting those there's nothing right now that says that we can't submit a recommendation every time we meet. We can submit them as much as we can. And that's what I want. I would like you all to provide, you know, recommendations that we would then collectively pull together and then look at, review, and say we're voting to move this forward. Because that's how I have to move it forward. I have to move it forward as we vote on it as a collective, and it passes for me to move it forward to the liaisons so they can move it forward to the prospective leadership. I want to make it very clear again, I am not saying that we're going to do anything extra than advise, because you didn't pay me to be, you know, saying a consultant, right? That's another world and another hat that I wear. I'm here to give you some advice on what you all need to do, because I am hearing from business leaders, from faith-based community leaders that, yeah, we want to help out, but we don't have you just want something from me. I'm not just here, I'm not a cash cow, right? Let's talk real business, how we can get into a position or a space where we can provide some small groups where we're addressing mental health, right? Where we can support, you know, transportation, or if these schools, you know, you don't have enough entities that are coming into before and after care spaces, that we are making sure that there are organizations such as the church know this is what you need to do to apply. You need to have all your paperwork in place, because we always know we need as much help to get these kids to school in the morning or in the evening, but to also maybe stay there to do some activities, because our jobs are very demanding. And so, you know, those are the things that I'm saying that I need from you all as PCAC members, as we come up with these ideas and say, hey, Millhouse, we need to talk. I want to bring this up for the agenda. Let's talk about it. because that's what we are here to do. We are to make sure that we are taking a global view of what's happening here in PGCPS and identifying the best strategies, the best partnerships, the right partnerships, I should say, to really move us forward, right? And I don't want to, be here doing a song and dance, because I got enough singing for my kids every day, right? I don't have the capacity to do it, right? And so, though, like, you gave a lot of ideas, like, so send that over, right? And let us put that on the agenda and let Superintendent House, like, hey, and let me also say this, right? It may just be that he says, hey, I need to meet with, the Dr. Bago, and we need to have this discussion. It's not something where the leadership of the PCAC has to be present, because as I've said to them, and Carter, tell me if I'm wrong, I can speak very well, very clearly about District 7, as well as what is happening in my purview. I can't be the voice for everybody here on PCAC. And so when I do speak at the board and I say something, I make it very clear that this is Dolores Millhouse that is speaking. Although I sit on various roles, this is my opinion and my voice in my mouth, unless it is voted upon, like when I presented the recommendation report that they asked me to present, a couple of months ago. But no, I'm not, no extra work, because this is volunteer. Everybody who's watching, we're volunteers. We don't get a stipend. This is all love and compassion. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? And so I just want to make sure that, we did have a Google form, and I will, and we don't need the Google form. We do have a PCAC email. It's pcac@gmail.com. That's the PCAC email. We have one email box that is manned by Carter and I right now. And we do our best. But when people are sending in comments and concerns, what we do is we just send that to the appropriate group, because it's not our role to kind of begin to try to get into a position where we are engaging at that level, right? That's not what we're here for. But I do believe that's important that we do respond and send the information out, but that also becomes a place that we can kind of collect to see, well, we've been getting a lot of emails about transportation. We've been getting a lot of emails about bullying. So in that recommendation report, it will state how many emails that we've had, where they fit into the various categories for concerns, and to let them know what departments it was sent to, right? And so at least we are doing that part because to me, it's about engagement. If they send it to us, I want us to be able to respond and say, we received some input from the community. So those who are in responsible positions, we need you to respond. Because that's a big thing that we've heard, that people are not being heard, right? Nothing is being addressed in a timely manner. So any other comments, questions?
Chair Millhouse, I wanted to just speak really quickly about a comment that Dr. Bago made, because I think that this might also be helpful. So I wanted to just clarify that the Board of Education handles policy, budgetary items, and then community engagement. And I know that policy-wise, like, we've already heard from Mrs. Welsh. And then, of course, actually, I'm not sure if you all know this, but I want to share that I will be sitting in as the chair of the Policy and Governance Committee. So any additional pieces or things that you'd like to talk about, I'm available for that. But there may not always be a policy shift that you want to say, like, hey, we need to bring up this policy, this needs to be changed, or that may be the case. But maybe it is like, hey, you all have these approved vendors, this is a part of a policy, here's a list of faith-based organizations or community organizations that could be approved vendors. Here's our recommendation. Here's a starting list. And I know a lot of times the hardest part is, like, if you have to do that additional digging or research, that's just more work, and that's going to, extend whatever outcomes that we'd like to see. And so I think that, to Dr. Bagel's point, like, yeah, definitely with the let's have more research, let's have more kind of like, reviewing things. But if there are some pieces, not that being the task of PCAC, but if there are some things where it's like, hey, we understand the policy, we understand what it means to be an approved vendor for before care, after care, here are some recommended partners. And here's the starting point. We've reviewed the policy. We've taken 3 months. We have a group of people who went off and did that workload. And so these are things that we're thinking. Here are some recommended faith-based leaders who are willing to give in-kind donations to schools for, specific things, right? So like those are all things that I think even the board could circulate in their newsletters and say, hey, to this specific principal, these specific churches want to give in-kind donations for, clothes or for food or for whatever else. And I think those are ways that the PCAC can do it without it having to be like this red tape process and, super heavy lift. So I think there are the heavier lift things where it's like, we do need to change this big policy that, is kind of constricting things for parents. And then there are other low lift things that are like, here are things that you can easily do. You don't need to do any additional research. You don't need to do anything here. And you can take action today. And it doesn't even have to be like this formal process. Board members can use this information to kind of use in their community engagement piece. We understand now that the policy allows for these specific vendors. So just wanted to give that additional context, because I heard you saying like, what specific wins can we have this year? In addition to like actual things that we can say, like, we, got more kids this, or more schools this, or principals address this. And I think those are some ways that you could do it.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. And I also want to just state, you made one, just for clarity, you stated that state that about the vendors again. Can you state that again?
Yeah, I had so this was the mayor of College Park reached out to me because there was one of the schools in my district that didn't have a before and after care program. And he was trying to figure out. And PGCPS has this process where they can only work through approved vendors. And there was a RFP that was request for proposal that was going through for a particular vendor. But there's already a process that exists. And so they were just getting it. So it's like that felt like that was kind of like a barrier in some way, but it was really more a logistics piece and I think a policy piece. And so to Dr. Bagel's point, if you're thinking about community leaders for before and after care, there may be other organizations that maybe we don't have on our radar, but we could be considering and we should consider. And I think that could be a recommendation. And then you could see, like, do they fit into the qualifications for an approved vendor? We could even kind of help to facilitate the relationship with the administration staff to kind of identify that, and share that. So I think there's a lot of other ways around kind of, the red tape.
And
Yeah,
and I think that's good. I just think there's a lot of barriers, not just becoming a vendor, because that's just a step for the school system. But in order, and I just speak from the perspective of faith-based institutions, you're talking about establishing yourself as a vendor for the school system, establishing yourself in the state requirements as well as county requirements. And so those are barriers that if you want specifically to have support systems and partnerships with faith-based institutions, then you have to have someone who helps them navigate those portals. Let me use you for an example, and normally I don't talk during these meetings, so let me just get it all out because it's the first of the year, first meeting. Carmody Hills Baptist Church, located in Seat Pleasant, Maryland, has a partnership with Carmody Hills Elementary School, where they provide backpacks, school supplies, clothing. They do free luncheons for teachers and administrators. They also have their own separate mental health company called the Hope Center. But yet they can't provide those services to the school because there are too many logistical barriers in getting approved as a mental health facility. But they're located
I can help.
in the community. Right.
Call me. I'm gonna
Okay.
help you because that is like, I was like, what? We have to, like you said, we've got to overcome some of those barriers. And it could be that they're not talking to the right people in our
Right.
school system. So we can definitely help cut through some of that. Because that to me, that's crazy. And Reverend Vega, I hear that too from, faith-based partners. It was like, we're knocking at the door and we can't get in. And I've always been, no, we got to move those barriers,
I'm gonna
and
be
make sure.
quiet for the last 10 minutes.
Don't be quiet. We appreciate you. Miss Millhouse, you're
You're
muted.
muted.
Mute myself. Thank you. So Mr. Briggs, I was saying thank you, Dr. Bago, Dr. Jackson. And I was saying, Mr. Briggs, I wanted to just, thank you for clarifying. And I want to clarify this. We don't always have to wait for a report to go through, right? We have Dr. Jackson here. We have Ms. Welsh here. So, and when we're also having those meetings, we can send the information to the liaison, to our board members, to say, hey, we need to talk. Who do we talk to about making sure that we can work with? Maybe we have a faith-based summit, right? and we bring the faith-based community in, and we talk about, hey, from a resource perspective, from a partnering perspective, what does it look like? How do we come together, right? But I want to make sure that the report that we do is just that. It's the report that we say that we're going to come together and send in information. We are here representing not only the various districts, right? But you all as the community partners can reach out to various board members who may be leading certain things. And as Mr. Briggs offered up and said, hey, he's the chair of the policy, right, and governance committee, that's a great idea to talk to him. Ms. Dr. Jackson, she's one of our members. She's here with us, right? So I want us to not think that we are, if we have the ideas and we want to speak to Ms. Welsh about getting a better understanding of how do we get a certain policy in place. Maybe we bring the policy forward about how then you need to become a vendor. Maybe that needs to, get on the agenda sooner than later, right? And what do we do? So we are not, the only thing we can't do is come together. What was it, 5 or more? Is it 5 of us can't come together? Because the Open Meeting Act, we are governed by the Open Meeting Act.
Is Robin?
Okay.
Robin can correct this, but I thought
is
it
it
was
5?
It has to do with whether you have a quorum and
Right.
what your numbers are.
So 8. So no, I'm saying that we can't, we have our meetings monthly, but just let's say the civic engagement and faith-based and business, you all want to come together and you all want to meet, you can do that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Right? If
Absolutely.
some of the districts want to come together, it's like, hey, I heard this is happening over in your district. Let's talk about it. Let's collaborate. We can do that. There's nothing that stops us from doing that. We just can't come where there are 8 or so together and say, we're gonna meet up, because at that point we are violating Open Meeting Act, right? Which states that we have to publicize that we are having a meeting. We need to make sure that the public has access to the meeting. But there's nothing to say that if you all have some ideas, you want to collaborate on some things, that you can do that and then bring it back to the group so we can have a bigger discussion if it's something that you want to move forward, right? As a recommendation that we want the board to consider. But if you want to just talk to the District 7 rep and the District 8 rep and the District 9 rep, you can do that because it's impacting those areas, right? But, I also want to just make sure we understand that what we do is, it may be for the district, but we're also here for the whole. Does that make sense? So this is exciting. Dr. Bagel, keep going. Are there any other Are there any other questions? This, we usually don't meet this long, you all. So this is saying a lot, that we've been having a lot to talk about. We've been kind of thinking about how do we really want to move together as a collective, how we want to divide and conquer and bring back so we can build up, right? And so the most important thing I would say is when we are advising, that means we need to be in a position to listen, right? We need to be in a position to ask questions for understanding, and then say, hey, I think this is something that we can, support and help the school system out. That they don't have to take the recommendation, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to recommend, give a different perspective on things. And so, any other questions? And by all means, the email, Ms. Wilson. I'm gonna put my glasses on.
Yes, thank you so much. Dr. Jackson, I also wanted to probably get with you on the side because I heard you have the, and sorry, I've kept so many notes, Dadversities
Yes.
for engagement with more dads. And I am aware of a number of male groups that have been trying to figure out how to engage the Prince George's County Public School System. They have mentoring programs and things of that nature where they would want to be able to engage. And I did literally tell them, hey, I will ask when I
Yes,
start.
please.
So
Let's do it. Let's make that happen. You and now, Dr. Bagel, we need to restart. We actually, 10 years ago when I had this department, we actually led a faith-based partnership initiative. And that was probably about 4 superintendents ago. We really need to reinvent that, revitalize it, because we had quarterly meetings with faith-based partners. We went to the big collective that ministers had as partners to just talk about what schools are saying that they need and what our faith-based partners can do or would like to do. So we need all of these connections, but I think it's reestablishing them. We've been through a lot of change as a district. It's time for us to, level the ship, and let's make sure that we move forward.
And does this also involve non-faith-based organizations as well?
Yes, we do. We have a whole office of business and community partnerships that actually has worked with individual organizations to develop MOUs. Some of our faith-based partners have adopted up to 6 or 7 schools for different things based upon the school's needs. And so they do the needs assessment together to talk about these are what our strengths are. And this is what we can offer as a faith-based partner. Tell us what you need. So that, it's a valuable partnership, and it's not one where, and I've heard that too. Sometimes it's like, give me the gimme central, give me this, give me that. No, partnership is not about one way. It's really about how do we both benefit from this relationship. So, yeah, but you all this is a powerful think tank right here. I mean, you could help us revitalize some of those initiatives.
And Mr. Briggs, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I don't want anyone to be deterred because we haven't had a meeting with board leadership yet, but I do encourage you all that you can reach out to any board member and share your ideas with any board member.
Well, I mean, you're first and foremost a constituent, so you should always know that you can reach out to your board member and they'll respond to you. And if they're not, then we can make sure that's happening. We can bring that up in these meetings. But yeah, that goes without saying that you can always reach out to your board member. And of course, if you happen to be on PCAC and want to talk about that too, then I don't think it's a violation anyway.
Oh, it's not a violation. You should let them know you're a PCAC because they voted you here. They voted as a collective for you to be here. So they are in a position with open arms. So and I say that because you don't have to just be tied to your district because another member may be pushing an initiative that you have some interest in, and you may have something to share that could be of value to them. And so I just, the only thing I would just caution us always about is, someone may reach out to you and say, hey, such and such is happening. We want to get your opinion as a parent leader, about, let's just say some violent incident has happened. Do not speak on behalf of PGCPS as a member of the Parent and Community Advisory Council. You can speak whatever you want to speak as a community member and a constituent, but we are not here, again, as an extension of the board or PGCPS to address anything that may be coming up. They have a very robust communication team that, and there are also protocols that have to be followed that the board members should be following as well before they give public comment to the media. So we don't want to step over any boundaries, and we want to be clear, but we are here first and foremost as, a parent or a community member, but we are wearing this dual hat now that can create some gray areas for us. But when in doubt, say, I don't have a comment. I cannot, I'm not in a position to. All right. Any other questions? Comments, concerns as it relates to what we have been discussing about engaging, in the community and just bringing information and ideas forward, so we can help, advise. And what I am excited about, and I feel really good about, is that once we have the meetings with leadership, that it'll be clear about what it is they want us to do and support in various areas that may be thorns in their sides that we don't see because from where we sit, right? So right now we're given a bottom up, view of what's happening. So we need them to give us from their global perspective on down. And our hope is that parents are building those relationships with the schoolhouse, because that's where we should feel most of the love. I shouldn't have to run to the superintendent to feel welcome. I need to feel that right at my schoolhouse, right? And we definitely want to support our teachers, right, to make sure that they stay, because we can have a education system that's happening. My child can learn without the principal, but if I don't have a teacher, it's not a good space to be in. So we're going to move on to follow up and next steps. And follow-up items, we do have a vacancy for the vice chair. We've had a vacancy for a while, so we are now in a position, and hopefully somebody steps up and raise your hand, and I will be working with Ms. Barton to send out an email to the committee. And you are interested in sitting in that seat as vice chair, then by all means, throw your hat in the ring, and we will be voting as a council in February to fill that seat. Carla and I would be happy to welcome you with open arms. Don't look so excited. You don't have to tell us now. You don't have to do that. So thank you, Ms. Barton. We appreciate you. And the next steps at this point is to really, I want to do another check-in with the new members. And so I think you all have my email. So I would like for any of you who I didn't, and Carter and I didn't speak to next, if we can just kind of figure out when we can get on, a call just to talk briefly, let you know in another high level who we are, what we're doing, and what we've been working on. I will be working to make sure I add you all to our Google Drive that we have, where we are housing all of our information at this point. And I hope you've read like the proposal, or not proposal, but the recommendation report, because we'll begin to work on the next report. And if anybody is interested in working with me on the bylaws, please that'll be in the email as well for you to just sign up. So I'll be looking for about 2 or 3 people, but everybody is required to provide some level of feedback. But if we have nothing else, we will move into closing remarks and adjournment. Oh, please don't forget, what's the date for Ms. Lundy's presentation? Is it January the 25th? January 25th. So January 25th, Ms. Lundy will be presenting at one of the Parent Institute event.
We will share the link with
Okay,
all members
thank
of PCAC.
Okay.
Yes, so please get the word out. And as she presented, that was very high level for us, but she is going to be walking parents through to get them ready. And I will also say that they are, there's some virtual town halls that the state superintendent search that will be happening January 16th, January 17th, as well as January the 18th. And so please make sure that you are staying engaged, that you are at least signing up to give some public comment. And I do want everyone to know our comments and our voices do matter. So I will also share this email, the press release from MSDE. So we will have that and get that information out to as many people as you possibly can. So at this time, it is 9:06. This is a record for us. I am asking for a motion from the floor to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey, aye.
And if anyone opposes, by all means, you can stay, but we want to go.
All right.
No opposes. We are adjourned, and thank you, and have an amazing night.
Thank
Right,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.